So, Mother in the best Christmas pageant ever is trying to help the Herdmans understand the Christmas story. So they've never actually had to do this when they do the Christmas pageant because everybody knows the Christmas story. Well, this year, the Herdmans don't know the Christmas story, right? So they talked about, we ended with them talking about them wrapping the baby in, what did he call them? Wadded up clothes, swaddling clothes, and laying him in a manger. And so she said a manger is a feed box for the animals because that's what they needed to do. And Imogen was very, very indignant about that. And she said, "You mean they tied him up and put him in a feed box?" She said, "Where was child welfare?" Child welfare was always checking up on the Herdmans. I'll bet if the child welfare had ever found Gladys all tied up in a bureau drawer, they would have done something about it. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, Mother went on, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and Shazam! Gladys yelled, flinging her arms out and smacking the kid next to her. What? Mother said. Mother never read Amazing Comics. Out of the black night with a horrible vengeance, the mighty Marvo. I don't know what you're talking about, Gladys, Mother said. This is the angel of the Lord who comes to the shepherds in the fields and out of nowhere. Right? Gladys said. In the black of night. Right? Well, Mother looked unhappy. In a way. So Gladys sat back down, looking very satisfied, as if that was the least one part of the Christmas story that made sense to her. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Mother went on reading, behold, there came wise men from the east in Jerusalem, saying, That's you, Leroy, Ralph said, and Claude and Ollie, so pay attention. What does it mean, wise men? Ollie wanted to know. Were they like school teachers? No, dumbbell, Claude said. It means like the President of the United States. Mother looked surprised and a little pleased, like she did when Charlie finally learned the times tables up to 5. Why, that's very close, Claude, she said. Actually, they were kings. Well, it's about time, Imogen muttered. Maybe they'll tell the innkeeper where to get off and get the baby out of the barn. They saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him and presented him with gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. What's that stuff? Leroy wanted to know. Precious oils, Mother said, and fragrant resins. Oil? Imogen hollered. What kind of a cheap king hands out oil for a present? You get better presents from the firemen. Sometimes the Herdmans got Christmas presents at the firemen's party, but the Santa Claus always had to feel around in the back packages to be sure they weren't getting bows and arrows or dart guns or something like that. Imogen usually got sewing cards or jigsaw puzzles, and she never liked them, but I guess she figured they were better than oil. Then we came to King Herod, and the Herdmans never heard of him either, so Mother had to explain that it was Herod who sent the wise men to find the baby Jesus. Was it him that sent the crummy oil for presents? Ollie wanted to know, and Mother said it was worse than that. He planned to have the baby Jesus put to death. My God, Imogen said. He just got born and already they're out to kill him? The Herdmans wanted to know all about Herod, what he looked like and how rich he was and whether he fought wars with people. He must have been the main king, Claude said, if he could make the other 3 do what he wanted them to do. If I was a king, Leroy said, I wouldn't let some other push me around. You couldn't help it if he was the main king. I'd go be king somewhere else. They were really interested in Herod, and I figured they liked him. He was so mean he could have been their ancestor, Herod Herdman, but I was wrong. Who's going to be Herod in this play? Leroy said. We don't show Herod in our pageant, Mother said, and they all got mad. They wanted somebody to be Herod so they could beat up on him. I couldn't understand the Herdmans. You would have thought the Christmas story came right out of the FBI files, and they got so involved in it, wanted a bloody end to Herod, worried about Mary having her baby in the barn, and called the wise men a bunch of dirty spies. And they left the first rehearsal arguing about whether Joseph should have set fire to the inn or just chased the innkeeper into the next county.
That sounds pleasant.
When we got home, my father wanted to hear all about it. Well, Mother said, just suppose you had never heard the Christmas story and didn't know anything about it, and then someone told it to you. What would you think? My father looked at her for a minute or two, and then he said, well, I guess I would think it was pretty disgraceful that they couldn't find any room for a pregnant woman except for in a stable. I was amazed. It didn't seem natural for my father to be on the same side as the Herdmans, but then it didn't seem natural for the Herdmans to be on the right side of anything. It would have made more sense for them to be on Herod's side. Exactly, Mother said. It was perfectly disgraceful, and I never thought about it much. You hear all about the nice warm stable with all the animals breathing and the sweet-smelling hay, but that doesn't change the fact that they put Mary in a barn. Now let me tell you, she told my father all about the rehearsal, and when she was through, she said, it's clear to me that deep down, those children have some good instincts after all. My father said he couldn't exactly agree. According to you, he said, their chief instinct was to burn Herod alive. No, their chief instinct was to get Mary and the baby out of the barn. But even so, it was Herod they wanted to do away with, and not Mary and Joseph. They picked out the right villain. That must mean something. Maybe so. My father looked up from his newspaper. Is that what finally happened to Herod? What did happen to Herod anyway? None of us knew. I had never thought much about Herod. He was just a name, somebody in the Bible, Herod the king. But the Herdmans went and looked him up. The very next day, Imogen grabbed me at recess. How do you get a book out of the library? I said. She said, you have to have a card. How do I get a card? You have to sign your name. She looked at me for a minute with her eyes all squinched up. Do you have to sign your own name? I thought Imogen probably wanted to get out of the dirty books, wanted to get one of the dirty books out of the basement, which is where they kept them, but I knew nobody would let her do that. There is this big chain across the stairs to the basement, and Miss Grabner, the librarian, can hear it rattle no matter where she is in the library, so you don't stand a chance of getting down there. Sure, you have to sign your own name, I said. They have to know who has the books. I didn't see what difference it made, whether she signed the card with her own name or signed the card Queen Elizabeth. Miss Grabner still wasn't going to let Imogen Herdman take any books out of the public library. I guess she couldn't stop them from using the library, though, because that was where they found out about Herod. They went into the afternoon, all 6 of them, and told Miss Grabner that they wanted library cards. Usually when anybody told Miss Grabner they wanted a library card, she got this big, happy smile on her face and said, "Good! We want all our boys and girls to have library cards." She didn't say that to the Herdmans, though. She asked them why they wanted library cards. "We want to read about Jesus," Imogen said. "Not Jesus," Ralph said. "That king who was out to get Jesus, Herod." Later on, Miss Grabner told my mother that she had been a librarian for 38 years and loved every minute of it because every day brought something new and different. But now, she said, I might as well retire. When Imogen Herdman came in and said she wanted to read about Jesus, I knew I'd heard everything there was to hear.